"You're not my daughter," he said. So I showed him the DNA test that proved he was wrong. My name is Esther. I am 32 years old. My whole life, I felt like a puzzle piece that didn't fit in its picture. My family looked a certain way, but I always felt different on the inside. This is the story of the day my father, in a fit of anger, told me a secret that shattered my world. And it is the story of how I found the real truth, a truth that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. The fight started over something small. At least, it felt small to me. A job offer. A chance to move to a new city, to start a new life. For me, it was a dream. For my father, David, it was a betrayal. We were in their cozy, familiar kitchen. The smell of my mother's meatloaf still hung in the air, but the comfort was gone. "Chicago," he'd said, his voice a low rumble of disapproval. "You want to throw away a perfectly good career here to be a tiny fish in a massive pond over there?" "It's not throwing it away, Dad. It's a promotion. It's more money. It's life." I pleaded, my hands gripping the back of a wooden chair. My mother, Susan, hovered by the sink, her hands twisting in a dish towel. "David, maybe we should just listen to her." "I am listening, Susan," he snapped, not taking his eyes off me. His were a steely blue, cold and unwavering. Mine were a soft brown. I'd always been told I had my grandmother's eyes. Now, I wondered. I hear her making a reckless decision. What's in Chicago? Some boyfriend we don't know about. No. It's about me. For once, it's about what I want. My voice was rising, matching his. "What you want?" He let out a short, harsh laugh. "You don't know what you want. You're 32, Esther. It's time to be practical. To settle down. Not go chasing some fantasy." Tears pricked at my eyes. This was our pattern. My dreams were always fantasies to him. My ambitions were always rebellions. I felt that old familiar feeling, like I was an imposter in my own skin, desperately trying to earn an approval I could never quite grasp. "You never believe in me," I whispered, the hurt making my voice crack. "I believe in reality," he roared, slamming his hand on the kitchen table. The salt and pepper shakers jumped. "I believe in stability. You are so stubborn. You never listen. You never have." The words were like physical blows. I took a step back. But he wasn't done. The anger in him, a pressure cooker I'd seen my whole life, finally blew its lid. He took a step forward, his face red, his finger pointing right at me. "You're so difficult. You're nothing like us. You're not even my daughter." The world stopped. The words hung in the air, sharp and poisonous. For a second, he looked as shocked as I felt. His mouth snapped shut. The anger in his eyes vanished, replaced by a flicker of pure, unadulterated panic. He took a sharp step back, as if he could physically retrieve the words. A small, choked sound came from the sink. My mother. Her hand was over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Tears were already streaming down her face. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at my father, and her look wasn't just one of anger, but of a deep, profound fear. My own breath hitched in my chest. I felt like I was breaking apart from the inside. The solid floor beneath my feet seemed to turn to liquid. The familiar kitchen, with its cheery yellow walls and the photo of us at my college graduation, suddenly felt like a stranger's house. "You're not even my daughter." The words echoed in the silent, stunned room. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just turned, my legs moving on their own, and walked out of the kitchen. I walked out of the house. I got into my car. I drove away. And my whole life, the picture I had of myself and my family, shattered into a million unrecognizable pieces. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember sitting on my apartment floor, my back against the door, and sobbing. It was a deep, guttural crying that came from a place I didn't know existed. It was the sound of my foundation crumbling. "You're not even my daughter." It was supposed to be a cruel thing to say. A throwaway line in a heated argument. But the look on his face, the look on my mother's face, it wasn't just a cruel thing. It was a secret. A secret they had been keeping. The feeling I'd had my whole life, the puzzle piece that didn't fit, suddenly had a name. It had a reason. I called my best friend Chloe. I could barely get the words out. "Chloe," he said, I wasn't his daughter. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Oh, Esther. No. He was just angry. He didn't mean it." "He did," I whispered, my voice raw. "Chloe, you didn't see his face. You didn't see my mom's face. It was the truth." I spent the next few days in a fog. I called in sick to work. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just wandered around my apartment, the words playing on a loop in my head. I pulled out old photo albums. There was a picture of me as a baby on my father's lap. He was smiling, but was it a real smile? Another of him teaching me to ride a bike. Was he holding the back of the seat because he was worried I'd fall, or because he felt he had to? I looked at our faces side by side. His sharp, angular features. My softer, rounder ones. His straight, blondish hair. My curly, dark brown hair. I had always just accepted we looked different. Now, every difference felt like a clue I had been too blind to see. The whisper had become a roar. I had to know. "I'm going to do a DNA test," I told Chloe a week later. We were sitting on her couch, drinking tea that had gone cold. "Esther, are you sure? What if it's true? Your whole world will change." "My world has already changed," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Right now, I'm living in a lie. I need to know the truth, even if it hurts. I need to know who I am." I ordered the kit online. The wait for it to arrive felt like an eternity. When the small, innocuous box came, it felt heavy with consequence. I held it in my hands for a long time, my heart pounding. The instructions were simple. Swab the inside of your cheek. Send it back. But I needed a sample from my father. David. The thought of asking him was impossible. The shame and anger of that thought made my face burn. So I devised a plan. A terrible, sneaky plan that made me feel sick to my stomach. I went to my parents' house on a Tuesday afternoon, when I knew my dad would be at work. My mom was home. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed. "Esther," she said, her voice fragile. "I'm so glad you came by." We didn't talk about the fight. We talked about the weather. About a movie she'd seen. It was painful and polite. I felt like I was acting in a play. "I just need to use the bathroom," I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. I walked down the hall to my parents' bathroom. It smelled like my dad's aftershave. His toothbrush was there, in the holder next to my mom's. A simple, blue toothbrush. I stared at it. This was it. The point of no return. My hands trembled as I pulled a small plastic bag from my pocket. I took his toothbrush. I felt like a thief. I was a thief. I was stealing the truth. I slipped it into the bag and into my purse. I flushed the toilet for effect and went to wash my hands, avoiding my own eyes in the mirror. I stayed for another 15 minutes, making agonizing small talk, before I made an excuse and left. The toothbrush in my purse felt like a lead weight. At home, I carefully mailbox. The click of the mailbox door closing felt final. Now, there was nothing to do but wait. The wait was agony. 2 weeks. 14 days of refreshing my email every 5 minutes. 14 nights of lying awake, my mind racing with terrifying possibilities. Who was I? If David wasn't my father, then who was? Did my mother have an affair? Was I the product of a terrible mistake? I was lost in a sea of confusion and heartbreak. The email arrived on a rainy Thursday morning. The subject line was simple: "Your DNA results are ready." My breath caught. My hands turned to ice. I clicked the link. The web page loaded slowly. Too slowly. My pulse throbbed in my ears. And then I saw it. A chart. 2 names, Esther Miller and David Miller. And next to it, in stark, undeniable black and white, probability of paternity, 0%. Conclusion: David Miller is excluded as the biological father of Esther Miller. I read it once. Then again. And a third time. The words didn't make sense. They were just letters on a screen. But they were also a wrecking ball. 0%. Excluded. A strange, cold stillness settled over me. The roaring in my head stopped. The anxiety that had been my constant companion for weeks just vanished. It was replaced by a hollow, absolute certainty. He was right. I was not his daughter. The world I had known was gone. The man I had called Dad for 32 years was not my father. The tears came then, not as sobs, but as a quiet, endless stream. I was an orphan in a way. I was a ghost in my own life. I called Chloe. "It's true," was all I could say. "I'm on my way," she said. While I waited for her, a new fierce emotion began to push through the shock and grief. Anger. My mother. She had known. She had known my whole life. She had looked me in the eye every single day and lied. An hour later, I was standing on my parents' doorstep. I hadn't called. My mother opened the door, surprise on her face. "Esther. What a..." She saw my face. The tears were gone. Now, there was only hard, cold resolution. Her smile faded. "We need to talk," I said, my voice flat. "Now." I walked past her into the living room. I didn't sit down. I turned to face her. "I know," I said. She paled. "Know what, honey?" "Don't," I snapped, the word cracking like a whip. "Don't honey me. I took a DNA test. David is not my biological father." It was like watching a building collapse. Her shoulders slumped. All the light went out of her eyes. She sank onto the sofa, her hands covering her face. Her body was racked with silent sobs. After a long moment, she looked up, her face ravaged by guilt and sorrow. "I'm so sorry, Esther. I am so sorry." And then the story came out. A story from 33 years ago. She and David had been married for 5 years. It was a difficult time. He was obsessed with his work, distant, and critical. She felt lonely and unloved. She felt like a failure. "Then I met Michael," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. "He was a friend of a friend. He was kind. He listened. He was gentle." She described a brief, emotional affair. "It wasn't about passion," she said. "It was about feeling seen." It lasted only a few weeks. The guilt became too much, and she ended it. She and Michael lost touch. She threw herself into fixing her marriage with David. "A few months later, I found out I was pregnant," she said, her eyes begging me to understand. "I thought it was David's. We had been trying. I was overjoyed. I thought it was a sign that we were going to be okay. But when I was born, with my head of dark hair and my brown eyes, a tiny doubt crept in. As I grew, and looked less and less like David, the doubt grew into a terrifying secret. We never talked about it directly," she said. "David suspected, I know he did. But we made an unspoken decision. We would never, ever speak of it. We would raise you as our own. And we did. We loved you. We love you, Esther. Please believe me." "What about Michael?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What happened to him?" "I don't know," she cried. "I cut all ties. I heard he moved away. I never told him. I thought it was for the best. For everyone. But it wasn't for the best." That secret had festered in their marriage. It had made David hard and fearful. It had made my mother live in constant guilt. And it had left me feeling like an outsider in my own family. I looked at my mother, this woman who had carried this enormous burden for over 3 decades. I felt a confusing mix of fury and pity. "His name is Michael," I said quietly. "I have a right to know who he is." My mother just nodded, fresh tears falling. The truth was out. The dam had broken. Back at my apartment, with Chloe by my side, I logged back into the DNA website. The results page had other features. It had a section for DNA relatives. My hand shook as I clicked on it. A list popped up. A few distant cousins I'd never heard of. And then one name, at the top of the list, with a high percentage match. Michael Roberts, predicted relationship, father. I stared at the name. Michael Roberts. It was a normal name. A real name. He was no longer a ghost from my mother's story. He was a person. And he was on this website, which meant he had taken a test too. He was looking for something, or someone as well. "Oh my God," Chloe breathed, looking over my shoulder. "You found him." I clicked on his profile. It was sparse. But there was a location. He lived just 3 hours away. And there was an option to send a message. "What do you say to the man who is your father, but a complete stranger?" "Hi," I think I'm your daughter? My first draft was a rambling, emotional mess. Chloe helped me tone it down. Hello Michael, I wrote, my fingers feeling clumsy. My name is Esther Miller. I recently took a DNA test, and the results indicate that we are a very close match, likely father-daughter. This is a huge shock to me, as I was raised by another man. If you are open to it, I would very much like to talk and learn more about you. Sincerely, Esther. I hit send before I could lose my nerve. The next 24 hours were a new kind of torture. I jumped every time my phone buzzed. What if he didn't want to know me? What if he was angry? What if he was nothing like the gentle man my mother described? Then, a reply appeared in my inbox. The subject line was, Esther. I opened it with bated breath. Dear Esther, it began. Your message was the most incredible and shocking thing I have ever received. I don't have many words right now. My mind is reeling. But yes, of course I am open to talking. More than open. I am overjoyed and so curious about you. Please, tell me more. Or if you're comfortable, we can talk on the phone. Whatever you prefer. Yours, Michael. Relief washed over me so powerfully I felt dizzy. He was overjoyed. He wanted to know me. We started with emails. Long, detailed emails that told the story of our lives. He was a woodworker. An artist. He made beautiful, custom furniture. He had never been married. No other children. He had always felt like something was missing in his life, a quiet emptiness he could never explain. I took the DNA test on a whim, he wrote. A friend did it for genealogy. I thought it would be interesting to see my heritage. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought it would lead me to a daughter. The day of the meeting, I was a bundle of nerves. Chloe helped me pick out an outfit. Be yourself, she said, giving me a tight hug. He's probably just as nervous as you are. I saw him before he saw me. He was sitting at a small table by the window, a half-finished cup of coffee in front of him. He was tall and lean, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. And he had a head of curly, dark brown hair, now streaked with gray. My hair. He looked up as I approached. His eyes, the same soft brown as mine, widened. He stood up, a slow, careful movement. Esther, he said, his voice full of wonder. Michael, I replied, my own voice a whisper. We didn't hug. We just looked at each other, taking in the features we each recognized in the other. The shape of the eyes. The curve of the smile. It was the strangest feeling. I was looking at a stranger, but I was also looking at a part of myself I had never seen before. We talked for 3 hours. He showed me pictures on his phone. Pictures of his workshop, filled with the smell of sawdust and varnish. Pictures of his dog. Pictures of his siblings, my aunts and uncles I never knew I had. He showed me a picture of his mother, my biological grandmother, and I saw my own chin in her face. There was no instant, magical father-daughter bond. How could there be? He was a kind, interesting man I had just met. But there was a connection. A deep, quiet, genetic thread that tied us together. There was a sense of peace. A missing piece of my puzzle had quietly, gently, clicked into place. Meeting Michael didn't erase the last 32 years. It didn't fix the hurt with David. I knew I had to face him again. This time, with the proof in my hand. I drove to my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. This time, I knew my dad would be home. My heart was a drum in my chest, but I felt a new strength. I knew who I was now. My mother let me in. She looked from my face to the folded papers in my hand, and understanding dawned in her eyes. She looked scared. He's in the den, she said quietly. I walked in. David was sitting in his favorite armchair, reading the newspaper. He looked up. His expression was closed off, guarded. The room was silent. Esther, he said, his voice neutral. Dad, I said. The word felt different now. Lighter or heavier, I couldn't tell. I walked over and stood in front of him. I took a deep breath. Do you remember our fight? I began, my voice surprisingly steady. The one about the job in Chicago? He put his paper down slowly. I do. You said something to me. You said, you're not even my daughter. I watched him flinch, just a little. I couldn't let that go. It haunted me. Because I think deep down, You and I both knew it wasn't just an angry thing to say. It felt like the truth. He said nothing. He just stared at his hands. So I took a DNA test, I continued. And I got your sample too. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock and something that looked like betrayal. But he didn't speak. You were right, Dad, I said, my voice softening. What you said during our fight, you were right. I unfolded the DNA test results and held them out to him. He took them with trembling hands. I watched his eyes scan the page. I saw them freeze on the words 0% and excluded. His face went pale. His jaw tightened. A muscle twitched in his cheek. The silence in the room was immense. He had known. He had always suspected. But seeing it there in black and white was different. It made the secret real and undeniable. He finally looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw raw, unfiltered pain in his eyes. Not anger. Pain. I found my biological father, I continued, my own eyes filling with tears. His name is Michael. He's a good man. I've met him. David looked down again, as if ashamed. His hands gripped the paper so tightly it crinkled. But meeting him, I said, my voice breaking, doesn't change the fact that you raised me. It doesn't change the 32 years we've had. It doesn't change you teaching me to ride a bike, or helping me with my homework, or being there when I graduated college. It doesn't change all the times you worried about me, or protected me, or even the times you pushed me to be better. I knelt down beside his chair so I could look directly into his eyes. So I need to ask you something. Now that the secret is out. Now that the truth is right here in your hands, are you going to push me away because of something we both already knew? Or are you going to be my real dad and love me for who I am, not who I was supposed to be? The word dad did it. A sob broke from his chest. A sound I had never heard before. This strong, stern, unyielding man covered his face with his hands and cried. Great, heaving sobs that shook his whole body. The DNA results fell from his lap to the floor. My mother appeared in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, crying silently. I stayed where I was, my own tears falling, waiting. After a long moment, he looked up, his face wet and ravaged. I'm sorry, Esther. I am so sorry. His voice was rough with emotion. I was terrified. From the moment you were born, I was terrified you would find out. I thought if I was hard on you, if I made you strong and independent, you wouldn't need anyone. You wouldn't need to go looking for answers. You wouldn't leave me. The fear, it made me angry. It made me cruel. It made me build walls instead of bridges. He reached out and took my hands in his, holding them tightly. But I have loved you every single day of your life. Every single day. You are my daughter. In every way that matters, you are my daughter. I was there when you took your first steps. I was there when you skinned your knee. I was there for every birthday, every Christmas, every school play. I held you when you cried. I cheered when you succeeded. That's what makes me your father. Not biology. Not blood. But love. And choice. And time. His voice broke completely. I chose you, Esther. Every single day, I chose you. And I'm sorry I let my fear make you doubt that. I'm sorry I ever made you feel like you weren't enough, or weren't mine. You have always been mine. My daughter. My little girl. I couldn't hold back anymore. I threw my arms around him, and he held me tightly, his grip fierce and desperate. It was different from any hug he had ever given me. It wasn't a formal, stiff hug. It was a hug of surrender. A hug of truth. A hug of unconditional love, finally set free from the prison of fear and secrets. We cried together, for the years lost to silence, and for the future we now had a chance to build honestly. My mother joined us, wrapping her arms around both of us, and we stayed like that for a long time, three broken people holding each other together, healing in the only way that really works, through love and truth and forgiveness. That was 18 months ago. Healing is a slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. There were more conversations, more tears, more apologies. David started going to therapy to deal with his anger and fear. We started having dinners together regularly, just the three of us, and we talked about real things. It was awkward at first, but it got easier. He started asking about my dreams instead of dismissing them. He started listening instead of lecturing. The wall between us crumbled, brick by brick. I took the job in Chicago after all. But this time, when I told David, he surprised me. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," he said, and his smile was genuine. "I'm proud of you. And Chicago is only a few hours away. We'll visit." My relationship with David is different now. Better. It's honest. It's built on truth instead of fear. He's trying so hard to be a better father. A real father. And I'm trying too to see him not as the man who hurt me, but as the man who raised me, who loved me in the only way he knew how, even when fear made him stumble. And Michael? He is a wonderful, new part of my life. We talk every week. I've been to his workshop many times. He taught me how to sand a piece of wood until it's smooth as silk, how to read the grain, how to see the hidden beauty in raw timber. I've met my aunts and uncles, and they welcomed me with open arms and so many questions and so much love. They threw me a welcome to the family party, and I cried through the whole thing. Michael even made me something. A beautiful wooden box with a hinged lid, carved with delicate flowers. "For keeping important things," he said softly when he gave it to me. Inside, I keep the DNA test results, a photo of him, and a photo of David teaching me to ride a bike. Past and present, biology and choice, all kept safe together. Last month, we all had dinner together for the first time. My mom, David, Michael, and me, all at the same table in my new apartment in Chicago. It was strange, yes. A little surreal. But it was also filled with warmth and laughter. David and Michael discovered they both love old Western movies and classic cars. They talked for almost an hour about John Wayne and debated the merits of different muscle cars from the 70s. My mother made her famous meatloaf, and Michael brought homemade apple pie. We told stories. We laughed. We were careful with each other, gentle, but it was real. At one point, I looked around the table. At my mother, who finally looked free of the crushing weight of her secret, her face relaxed and smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. At David, who was laughing, a real genuine laugh that reached his eyes and crinkled the corners. At Michael, who was telling a story with his gentle, expressive hands, his eyes lighting up when he looked at me. My family is bigger now. And more complicated. It's not the simple, straightforward picture I thought I had when I was growing up. It's not a neat nuclear family from a storybook. It's a mosaic, made of broken pieces put back together with patience and truth and love. It's messier. It's harder. But it's also richer, more beautiful, more honest. The puzzle piece finally fits. I know where I came from. I know who I am. I am Esther. I am Susan's daughter, born from a moment of human weakness and desperate loneliness, but raised with love. I am David's daughter, not by blood, but by every bedtime story, every scraped knee he bandaged, every tough lesson he taught me, every fear he conquered to love me better. And I am Michael's daughter too, connected by biology and by the gentle, growing bond we're building, one conversation, one visit, one shared laugh at a time. I have two fathers. One who raised me, and one who gave me life. Both are part of my story. Both are part of who I am. And I am finally, beautifully, completely whole. The secret that almost destroyed us became the truth that set us free. And in that freedom we found something more valuable than any picture-perfect family. We found real love, honest love, the kind of love that says, I see all of you, the complicated truth of you, and I choose you anyway. For the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm pretending. I don't feel like I'm performing a role or living up to an image. I am simply truly myself. I am loved for exactly who I am. The little girl who never quite fit finally found her place. Not in one family or the other, but in the beautiful, messy, complicated space where both families meet, where love is bigger than biology and truth is stronger than fear. And that, I've learned, is what home really means. Please like, comment, and share. If this is your first time watching my video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified whenever I post a new story.